now that I'm in, I have 24 different plans that are competing for my business. So I've got tremendous choice, and they range in price from $1,000 a month to $2,000 a month, and the deductible is what fluctuates in the balance. But I get it now why this was an idea that grew out of the Heritage Foundation, because it's the antithesis of socialism. I laugh when I hear that charge, because it's either Independence Blue Cross or it's Aetna. These are private insurers competing for my business so that I can then go into the marketplace and still select my physician. I completely understand how this is in sync with free market capitalism. So the Republicans now, abandoning an idea that was originally their own is purely for political purposes. And I think that what illustrates this so clearly is what you just described, these advocacy efforts to say don't get insurance. That is so antithetical to the Republican idea of personal responsibility. I mean, what we need to really ask ourselves is who will pay for those that don't get insurance or are allowed to maintain an underinsured policy? Well, society is going to pay. And that was part of the premise at the outset. We wanted to cover people, right? But we also wanted to make sure that those of us who had coverage were not caring for those who used the ER as a primary care facility. So what they're doing now is so out of whack, dare I say, with basic conservatism, that I think it exposes their true hand.
Well, if Republicans have stopped trying to repeal Obamacare now, I mean, they're still complaining about it being terrible, but they mostly seem to have stopped trying to get rid of it. And their plan does seem to try to make it not work, to try to interfere with people getting insurance, arguing, as you say, against the whole idea of insurance. What that means in terms of their principles is one thing. What that means in terms of their strategy, for me, is very hard to see. Like, if that's what they're going to do now, if they're going to tell people not to get insurance, they're going to try to make it hard to do, where does that strategy end? Where does that lead to for Republicans?
Well, if we really want to be Machiavellian about it, I mean, people are signing up. Kentucky's a great example of the success with regard to the Medicaid expansion. But if the Republican efforts, like you just described, are geared toward turning away the young invincibles, then what I think is really going on is that they're trying to subvert the underpinning of this. Remember, this model works if everybody buys in. If the young invincibles are buying in, if I'm buying in, if people who are of means are buying in, so that we can provide that safety net for people who heretofore haven't had insurance. So if the young invincibles are convinced otherwise, then the economics of this thing are in jeopardy, and everybody has to now pay more for having expanded the tent for the Medicaid recipients. I think, frankly, that's what it's all about, so that they can put numbers on the board and say, see, we told you, this is a drain on our economy.
I think that if they thought they could control that much of the economy and that much of the policy board, I would see them aiming at that. I think that they're sort of short-term hoping that's going to happen, but with 1.5 million people having already been told that they qualify for Medicaid, with over 100,000 people having already signed up for private insurance companies, with more people having signed up for Obamacare in the last 2 days than the whole first month of the program, I think the train's out of the station. I think this is going to be, politically in flux for a long time. But it's a fascinating experience.
Rachel, the debate has just changed. You know, when the conversation was only about the inability to get online, and there's also a lot of confusion out there. 85% of Americans don't need to ever be concerned with going online. I'm continually contacted by people who say, oh, I think I need to get to that website, and I'll say, but you have insurance through your employer. Nothing's going to change for you. So I think the confusion has really been a detriment to the administration. But now that the site is functioning quite well, and you can go online and see the choice you have. Remember, I'm a Pennsylvanian, so we don't have our own exchange. You know, I probably would have more than 24 choices if our governor had cooperated. I would think that perhaps in addition to Aetna and Independence Blue Cross, I would be looking at even more selections. But in the end, people want to see, what does it mean to me? Oh, really? I can spend X, Y, or Z? I think that's what matters.
Michael Smerkonish, SiriusXM satellite radio host, MSNBC contributor. It's really nice to see you, Michael. It's been too long. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.